What's going on, everybody? It's EricRayweather back here, and in today's video I'm going to be going over the 3 biggest things that EA is still dropping the ball with in terms of Madden 20. I do this video every year. I try to pick out the 3 biggest current things that EA either hasn't added back to the game or just hasn't built upon or has just kind of been neglecting in the game. And what's funny is the 3 things that I touched on last year, they were all addressed at least in some way for Madden 20. The 3 things last year, number 1 was the lack of a career mode. We got that back in Madden 20, although it is limited to just a QB. At least the mode is now back, and that step has been taken in the right direction there. The second thing was the lack of customization. That's another thing that they kind of halfway addressed this year in terms of creating a player. It's miles better than it was in the last few years. A lot more options now. Still need to add face scanning and a lot of other things, but at least they finally addressed it and has made it a lot better than what it was. And the third thing was playbooks being bland and needing an overhaul, and they really knocked that one out of the park by adding RPOs, the jet sweeps, the trick plays, and just overhauling playbooks in general to make them more authentic. So they definitely did a good job with that one. So now we're going to talk about the 3 things that EA is currently, the 3 biggest things that they are still dropping the ball with. Speaking of balls, today's video is brought to you by Manscaped. If you have that special someone, you already know that you gotta keep it clean and trim below the waist. And if you've ever trimmed down there before, I'm certain that you have the battle scars to prove it. But Manscaped has changed all of that. If you don't know about Manscaped, they are the only men's brand that is dedicated to below the waist grooming and hygiene. Their Perfect Package 2.0 kit comes complete with everything you need to make manscaping safe and easy. The kit comes with their signature product, the Lawnmower 2.0, a waterproof trimmer with a 6,000 RPM motor equipped with skin-safe technology so you never have to fear those nicks or snags ever again. Look, I'm going to keep it real with you. I was skeptical before I tried it out for myself. Anytime you bring anything with a blade near your gonads, there's definitely cause for concern. I can't count the times in the past that I've made that one false move and boom, now my junk is literally bleeding. But with Manscaped's Lawnmower 2.0, a product that was actually created by aerospace engineers, I no longer have to fear those nicks and snags when I'm cleaning up before date night. The replaceable ceramic blade uses skin-safe technology, which keeps you from getting cut, and that is the best feature of the product in my opinion. And if that's not enough for you, the kit also comes with a slew of other items that most men have never considered using down there, but most probably should, like the Crop Preserver, which is a 24-hour moisturizing deodorant for, yes, you guessed it, your balls. The kit comes with an all-natural spray-on body toner and refresher, grooming tools, and much more. If you're looking for the perfect tools for your family jewels, click the link below in the description and use code ERIC20 for a 20% off plus free shipping. Your balls will thank you. Okay, so enough about my balls and on to the ones that EA is currently dropping with Madden 20. Number 1 on this list is without a doubt immersion/presentation, whichever you want to classify it as. This is an area of the game that EA is just years behind on, and quite frankly, they need to upgrade this in a big way. Now, I'm on record in previous videos of saying, me personally, immersion isn't a big deal to me. Because how I play Madden is mainly just for the online competitive aspect. I want to get online and play against other people. I don't spend a lot of time in franchise mode, but many people that buy Madden do. They play franchise mode and they want that authentic experience. And in terms of immersion, this is just an area of Madden that needs a complete facelift and quite frankly is just way behind every other sports game when it comes to that. And you know, that's a reason, one of the biggest reasons that NFL 2K5 is held in such high regard is because of the immersion of the game. Because if you think back to that time, you know, both games had good gameplay. That was when Madden's gameplay was arguably at its best at the tail end of the PS2 days. You know, both games had good franchise modes that were deep. And both games were immersive, but 2K5 took immersion to another level. That was their biggest selling point, I believe, over Madden. When most people look back at 2K5, they always bring up the Sports Center wrap-up, the play highlights, you know, the stats and things like that. And obviously there was a lot of other little details that they had right as well, but the Sports Center thing is one of the big things that people remember because it was a special thing about the game, and we still haven't seen that in a Madden to this day. So not even saying that Madden has to even go and do that right now, but just a lot of little things that they don't get right. Obviously, like I said, for me, I don't care about the sidelines, but I understand why people do. The sidelines are still have fake players on it. That still hasn't been updated. The crowds still haven't been updated. You have, When you win a playoff game, it's not exciting. No one celebrates. When you win the Super Bowl, it's the same celebration we've seen for the past I don't know how many years. There's not enough pre and post game type stuff for you to like actually get excited about if that's the reason you play the game. And then the problem with EA is that instead of making the immersion better and adding on to it, a lot of times they actually take away from it. Like, the big uproar this year is how they took the refs out of the game. Again, I don't care because I'm just playing for the competitive aspect. I want the gameplay to be good. I don't even notice that the refs are on the field, but I understand why people are saying, well, why would you remove them from the game? Because you could literally put on any other sports game that exists, and they're refs running around with the players. In NBA games, they're handing them the ball when they're out of bounds. In the hockey games, they're skating down the ice with them, and they're always there. But Madden, I understand their reasoning of saying, well, they didn't really look good, they want to redo them, so they'd rather just remove them in the meantime until they redo them. But when you add that to the fact that you haven't really done anything else to your presentation, that's just going to make a lot of the fans of the game even more skeptical about your product when you're not adding to it, but you're actually taking away from the presentation. And what's crazy is, like, all the other EA Sports games have so much better presentation than Madden. Even NBA Live, they use ESPN, they use a lot of things, and Madden does not utilize a lot of the stuff. The NHL game, utilizes I believe the NBC license. Madden doesn't utilize any of that stuff. So the presentation and the immersion are things that really need to be better for Madden, and they're still dropping the ball with that, in my opinion. Number 2 is another one that I feel like at this point, I don't feel like at this point it's just true. Franchise mode, they're just dropping the ball with it. Now, yes, in terms of this gen, have they been finally taking those steps in the right direction the past 2 years? Yes, I believe they have. If you look at like Madden 15 all the way to Madden 18, franchise mode was on a serious, back burner. They didn't do a lot for the mode as it seemed like they did for other modes. Now, in 19 and 20, they did a decent amount for the mode those years, but the problem is it's a too little too late feeling for franchise players, because when they see what we had on PS2, and yes, we understand that there were at times where you're switching generations, you lose some things, it still shouldn't have taken it this long to be built back out. And yes, I think franchise players do appreciate the steps that were made for 19 and 20, because there were much more steps made those years than were made in the previous probably 4 years combined. But at this point, there's still too much missing, and it's not a good mode. It's a passable mode, it's decent, but it's not good. So I think for Madden 21, if nothing else, franchise needs to tackle the last few big things that are left in order to make the mode good. There's still a lot of little of those devils in the details that they need to attack too in following years to keep improving and building upon. But if they could just tackle these few things for franchise mode, I think it'll take it from being just a passable mode to being a good mode. So that would be adding coordinators to the game. I don't even think you have to do coaching carousel just yet, but you need to at least put the coordinators back in the game and have them have some kind of effect. You need to add training camp back to franchise mode. That just needs to be there. And you need to overhaul the scouting at least a little bit. At least make it a little bit more involved. Because right now, scouting is about as bland as it could get. Make the scouting feel important and make it feel more involved. And then the last thing I would say to that is just add the options to the contracts that people have been wanting. Yes, Madden 20 did redo the contracts and made them more realistic. But add the player options and the things like that in there that everybody else wants. And I think at that point, you take franchise from being just a passable mode that can function to actually being what you consider a good franchise mode. And then from there, you just keep building on top of it, trying to innovate. This year, you finally have the Pro Bowl back. You do have the scenario engine, which I think has a lot of potential. They redid contracts and things like that. But with those few key points that are still missing, it still is holding it back from being considered a good mode. And at this point, in 2019, it's just ridiculous at this point. Give the franchise guys what they need to run a franchise, just like you do. What's funny is I was playing NHL for the first time. I downloaded it because it was free on EA Access. I downloaded it for free like a month ago, maybe a little more than a month ago. And I'm not really a big franchise player, but I understand how Madden franchise works because I mess with it a little bit. And I downloaded NHL and I went into their franchise. I created a team, something that's still not there in Madden, but I think part of that's an NFL issue. But I was just kind of amazed at the options that were there in the NHL game. And I'm like, man, like this has way more options than Madden does. And the NHL game doesn't have competition either, so I'm not looking at it as just like, oh, well, Madden doesn't have competition. NHL literally has no competition either, and their franchise mode is way deeper than Madden's is. So I'm just at the point where let's just make the mode good. It's been improving, but let's just finish it off now. Make it good, and at that point, then you can start adding the little things back to it that need to be there. So that's number 2. And number 3 on the list is we need mini games back in this game. Other games do it. Madden, there was one of the best parts about the game back on PS2 and even early like 360, PS3 days. Mini games need to be back in the game, and this is something that is good for every type of player, can affect every type of mode. And when you have the ability to put something in the game that's good for literally every part of the game and every type of fan that you have of the game, that's something you need to put there. So adding things back like rushing attack, QB drills, wide receiver, DB drills, any other type of little mini games you could think of, like Oklahoma drills, whatever the case, just little fun mini games you could play. And why this is good is because you could use it for your career mode, to put your player through the certain drills that apply to him, to, have him earn XP or whatever to upgrade him or obtain abilities. You can use it in franchise mode again. So if you bring like minicamp back to franchise mode and you add mini games back to the game, that becomes a feature that is also useful now in franchise mode, because you could use it in your offseason for minicamp, or, you could use it as a practice tool to help your players gain XP by doing the various drills. You could pick maybe one player each week to run through the drills, or in minicamp, you can pick a few players to run through certain drills and they can gain XP and they can upgrade a little faster because of this. You can also use this for regular play now. Buddies come over, you can just play mini games. If you don't want to get into a long 30-minute game of Madden, you could play rushing attack or whatever the case may be, Oklahoma drill. There's tons of, we've seen them in NCAA and past Maddens. There's tons of different little games you could put. You could do it for online regular head-to-head and have a leaderboard for it, just like the older Maddens had. You could have it for Ultimate Team and do the same thing with it. Play with your Ultimate Team players. Try to find a fun way to tie it to that mode. It literally is good for every type of Madden gamer, so why not add that back to the game? It was one of the biggest fan favorites, and it went away years ago and has just never come back. And I do think this will return soon because of career mode being back, if nothing else. This would be a really good feature to have with that mode, but like I said, especially for like franchise and just online head-to-head, you can compete. It's a no-brainer. Bring it back. So those are the 3 things that EA is still dropping the ball with, in my opinion. You can leave your 3 things below in the comments as well. Curious to know what your 3 things are. And as always, I will see you guys next time.